and that will definitely shake up the meta. So
I
don't know
can't wait to
what's
see what the
in about.
exclusive card in that will be. The one that everybody starts complaining about, that I will have 3 of.
I mean, yeah.
Hey everybody, what's up? Circus here, coming at you with, well, the Rye Report. I got Rye here with
Hello.
me because that seems to make sense, bringing Rye in for the Rye Report. How you doing?
It would be weird to have a Rye report without Rye.
So right now I got, I think this is Battle Phase Sunday up on the screen going, and I guess we should, usually we talk about tournaments here, and that's why we got Rye here because he does most of the tournaments on our channel, or the most tournaments on our channel, I should say. Um, there is a spectating bug right now, right?
There is a spectating bug right now that is being fixed today. So by the time this video comes out, it'll already be fixed before damage step, which is super important. But basically, we can't live replay. We have to watch. We have to watch the replays. We can't live spectate, rather. So we have to wait for people to finish dueling, then watch it, which
Oh,
just
it's
adds more
brutal.
time.
Yeah.
The
So you
tournament.
might see Yu-Gi-Oh! Omega come up on the screen here because you were filling time with that, right? Like you'd watch a
We were,
replay and then go over to
yeah.
Omega and
We were playing, post box release Blue Eyes, post box release Noble Knights, post box release Heretics, post Teller Knights, all sorts of new decks coming from the new boxes. Me, Jason, and a couple other people from chat.
how'd that go? Pretty good? You excited for him?
Pretty good. I think this will be a good box. I really do.
Good. And I'm gonna say my prediction was probably right on. Huh? Well, I said the new year, and this is coming out on the 31st. So Konami,
That's the new year, yeah.
no, they're gonna say
Because it'll
no.
be it'll be it'll be New Year in Japan, right? So
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, all right.
yeah.
I should have specified Japanese New Year. How about that? All right, so what have we been seeing this past week in tournaments? Just power ranking, say Desperado. Is that what you've been seeing?
Yeah, so Desperado is still on top for the most part, but they're really struggling to actually like secure tournament wins.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly just them topping a bunch of the actual top 32 and then getting to the top 8, which garners them those points in power
Yep.
ranking. So it's slightly concerning that they're not actually able to secure these victories because obviously in higher prize pool tournament scenarios such as damage step, get the difference between top 4 and top 2 and top 1, right, is significantly different, right? Top 1 and top 2, that's literally half the prize pool that goes
Right.
to you. So it's interesting to kind of see as more and more people aren't actually pushing through for the victories. If people will start, you know, giving up the deck. I think there was only one first place in the last power rankings for
One
Desperado.
first place, and you know who got two?
Was
DDD
it?
and Magnets and Noble Knights. So
Yeah. So it's a little concerning for sure, for Desperado, and kind of worrying as other decks get more support. Desperado's already losing to these decks, and now they're going to lose even harder to these decks.
yeah,
It may cause people to start playing other decks over Desperado, which is going to drop its overall percentage. It's over, and then of course, if less people are playing it, less people are going to also be top aiding with it as well. So keeping an eye on that. The gap is closing between Desperado. It is still arguably the best deck in the game. I mean, sometimes when you use Cup of Ace into Karma Cut into Fiend Comedian working out and your heads are all gone, life is just nice for you.
right.
Head judging goes off and you win the game off of that. Life's just solid at that point. But at the same time, we talked about this before. Desperado, very low skill deck that is able to carry a lot of people. And once those people are now against decks that are getting buffed, may get more exposed once their Desperado isn't really, the one answer that they have to everything
Right.
anymore. So it'll be
Well,
interesting to see how it shapes up.
I think we also learned that Misjudge will not activate on Rainbow Life, right? Like if you use Rainbow Life and then you attack in, she can't negate the life point gain.
Yeah, this is the one time where I will admit that this is where having a TPC will be significantly better in the power rankings. When something like that happens and DDD is constantly gaining points, DDD should have only won one tournament. I will stick to this. DDD should have only won one tournament in the past week. The player lost in top 16. He should have lost in top 16. There was lethal on board, but the player he was against literally just didn't know that Pendragon didn't target and just lost his karma cut for no reason. Absolutely no reason. There was no reason for him to lose his karma cut there. He lost it and he lost the duel right away. So instead of losing in top 16, he just skyrockets all the way to first place, which is insanity.
Right.
When you think about it, like that should have just never happened. Like
That's
what's
like
going
a
on?
pass interference call in a football game. It's like that should
Yeah.
have been a touchdown. There's pass
So,
interference.
so while yeah, I'm happy for the DDD players getting the representation on the list and everything. That's one of the ones where we put an asterisk next to it and just be like, all right, you're not going to see this next week. People will now
Ah.
realize what's happening. I will say the takeaway from that though, with DDD topping at least, because even if you don't look at the top first finishes, they have been topping quite a bit actually. And I don't know if those tournaments went to the power rankings, but in recent tournaments, I think even the one on Sunday, there was one that was top. I want to say top 8 again.
It
So
did.
that's funny.
I think it was two first place finishes and two top 8s.
There you go. So that's not that bad at all, actually. That's really
Yeah.
good. So and that is a byproduct of OTK kind of coming back a little bit. People have been dropping Temperance and Desperado foolishly, I might add. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you guys got to start playing that Temperance again. I know it feels awful to do so, and you want to try to get that blowback dragon to get that extra punch so you're not losing games to
Mhm.
Noble Knight, you're not losing games to Tri-Mids. I completely understand where you're coming from. Unfortunately, you doing that is allowing OTK decks to come back into the meta, and they are sacking people. Heroes just won Battle Phase Sunday, and even beyond looking at that, the top 4 were all OTK decks: Blackwing, Heroes. I don't remember the last deck, but it was another OTK deck. I'm sure that's because everyone was talking about it in chat. That is insanity when you think about it. Like OTK decks should not be working out in this metagame, especially with things like Invoked Neos, especially with things like Noble Knights floating all over the place. I think we're going to see a wave of hand traps potentially coming back in. Because
Or
I
just
mean,
you got to have really good back row or hand traps, right? Like
yeah, pretty much.
if
The
you're
only
Invoked
game
Neos, you got to have your Karma Cuts, your Fiendish Chains, and all that in your opening hand.
Yeah, there was a Desperado playing Temperance, and the only game he won was when he had Temperance in hand to stop the OTK from Heroes. So,
Right.
so it's one of those scenarios where it's like, I get it, I understand. People feel like Temperance is useless. I'm telling you right now, guys, it's time to put it back in your deck. It's time to potentially even get Sphere Creepos back into your deck because yeah, it's rough out here without some form of OTK prevention, especially with these decks. They all have access to True Nade one way or another, even if they have to play suboptimally to get there. They're gonna play it. So probably gonna start seeing a little more hand traps come back, especially now that one of the better hand traps, Veil, got nerfed. That is a massive nerf. I think that nerf is significantly larger than we first anticipated.
Oh, for a
Um,
lot of decks, yeah.
yeah, because we're seeing a lot of things happen right now. Fire Kings, namely, has kind of come out and stopped Winda from being that kind of, oh, we got to limit 3 Winda guys because she's everywhere.
Hmm.
That pretty much kind of stopped with Fire Kings because they just come out and say, all right, I'm negating that. And that's kind of to let Neos kind of fall back a little bit. I think they went from
Right.
second to third place this week.
Yep, they dropped.
Um, and I'll be honest, once the new box support comes out, you're probably going to see that happen a lot more. They're probably going to drop a little bit further, maybe 4th, 5th. They're going to have an extremely bad Noble Knight matchup with King Custonin coming out.
Hmm.
I think people are greatly underestimating how much the Noble Knight deck, how good it's going to be with the new support coming out.
Now
A lot
you
of
are a
people
little
think
biased, right?
I am a little biased. However, the power rankings are not biased, and 23 points. That's only a 10-point difference between them and
Right.
Desperado.
All they needed was a few more wins.
Yeah,
Or,
and
or
on top of that,
actually, they had 2 wins. They just needed more top 8 placements, is what they needed. And there's not as
yeah,
many people playing the deck now. It's trending up in people playing it, so we're seeing an uptick in top 8 finishes. So if the new box support comes out and is as good as you say, I think Noble Knights could easily top the power
yeah.
rankings.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was actually the last Rye report where we talked about Noble Knights, and you said they're not really converting, and I said, yeah, this is because people are bad. Was that the last Rye report?
Yeah, I think we were talking
I
about
think it
that.
was.
Yeah.
Well, here you go. People are now slowly starting to understand how the deck
Yep.
works. Their neurons are firing in the right directions
Right.
now. So now they're starting to understand. And this is without support, only 10-point gap. With the support that's coming in, King Custard, he targets 2, bounces 2. That's a Bryonic Dragon. That's great against Desperado. Not only because obviously popping monsters will cause Desperado to summon, but if they have Super Team Buddy Force Unite, they're gonna have to quickly activate that in the main phase to summon Desperado instead of the battle phase, which then you just pop the Desperado. At that point, you save your pops for Desperado. Windows, we don't care about Windows anymore. Face up, face down doesn't matter. Back row doesn't matter. Counters like Zombie World and DNA Surgery, you can easily bounce those back to the hand and then follow up with OTK if you have a Merlin or a normal summon. So the game's about to severely open up for Noble Knights, and whether and not necessarily that they'll become the best deck, the go-to deck to beat, but they will start to warp the meta alongside with Desperado, where right now it's pretty much just everyone play around Desperado and you'll be fine. You'll be able to top no problem. But now you're gonna have to also take them into account, I do believe so. With some preliminary testing in Omega, it's very, if Noble Knights go first, it's very oppressive. It's very reminiscent of Karakuri. So
So
expect that limit 2 very soon.
the one thing they're missing is some kind of built-in negate, right? And that'd probably just put them over the top. Like if one
I
of
mean
their monsters that
that's
had like a built-in like negate,
that's
like a
that's
Shien or
every deck
Arvada.
though. That's every deck. Like no one really has a negate these days, right? Like Arvada, even that has a cost to negate, which is good for Fire Kings because their costs are
Right.
good, right? They get the Garnax. But everything that actually negates has huge drawbacks. Arvada, extremely small body, very easy to just run over. What else even negates in the game? Veer, Madame Veer, the whole deck's nerfed to the ground, so it's really hard to actually use. Anything that's like a more free negate, like Shien or anything like that, is just a heavily nerfed deck.
Right.
So no deck really has that. Their weakness is still if your opponent goes first and sets Karma Cut. Like that's just, but that's every deck loses to that, right? Like
Right.
no one's really going to lose to that. The best you can hope for is just side deck True Nade, and if someone tries to hit you with that, just try to True Nade them into victory, right? But I mean, that was just how Karakuri worked. That was how all these decks that have historically lost to Karma Cut, that's just how they all have worked. Unfortunately, the game is just not power crept to the point where Karma Cut's irrelevant. A deck, for example, like Ritual Beast wouldn't care about Karma Cut, but Ritual Beast has other issues that they have to deal with that they need support, like Ritual Beast Steeds and all these crazy cards for them to really not care about the Karma Cut.
But this is good. A new box coming out, new support. We want to see the meta change. We've been begging for it ever
Yeah.
since Shiranui's been nerfed. Element Saber's been nerfed. We're just kind of playing with a leftover meta right now, right? We're just kind of
Pretty
like,
much,
this
yeah.
is just what we have. This is what we're playing. So this stuff coming out. Who cares about Ritual Beast? Get them out of here, right?
Get them out of here.
Let's
Let's
get the
see
new
new
stuff
stuff.
in here. I know I just upset the secret Ritual Beast Discord, but let's be honest. Let's get the new stuff in here and get going.
I think it would be cool to see certain, so for example, like certain decks like Ritual Beast, them to get support where they're not like that boring stall deck anymore, where it actually changes the playstyle. For example, we can use Noble Knights as an example. They were
Oh, of course. Why
a
not? Yeah,
completely
just a
different.
random deck. Just let's
Yeah, it's
take
a
it.
random deck. More so because I still have something to say about them.
Okay.
But they had a play style that's completely different from what it is now.
Right.
So even though they're the same deck, it feels completely different to play, right? It's not the same as say Invoked, where no matter what version of Invoked you're playing, it's just
Purgatrio
Purgatrio.
goes burr. Yeah.
Like that's not like
Yeah.
that. Those are still the same deck. It's just they're worser and worser variations of it, which really speaks to the power of Invoked, of how even though each Invoked deck that comes out is significantly weaker than the previous one, it's still irrelevant just because the
It still tops the power rankings. It still gets in the top 5 every week.
I will say Invoked is probably going to start dropping a lot here, which is probably for the best.
Yeah.
They can't play that Veil anymore. I know not many people played the Veil, but with Winda seeing less and less relevancy, especially now with one of the best meta decks having a Bryonic where they can't even activate Wind anymore, it's just going to drop even more, and to the point where people have to decide, do I want to play this? My only out to Noble Knight is to go first, set Karma Cut, and if I don't have that specifically, I'm going to lose.
Right.
So it's just one of those scenarios where you're like, okay, well, is it time to find another Invoked game? Are we going full Invoked stall at this point? Because that's what would have happened if Veil wasn't limited. Invoked Neos would have just played the Veil to call it a day, to get around
Just stall,
their windows getting
stall.
bounced. Yeah.
Well, it's just different stalling, right?
Different stalling. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what Neos does. I would not be surprised if Neos takes a backseat. It's already starting to take a backseat. That's the thing with all stall decks. Once you kind of realize you're being stalled, if you just slow play them, they lose.
Right.
9 times out of 10, they will end up losing.
Yeah, the stall player wants you to play aggressively.
Yeah.
So that you burn your resources, and then I use as few resources of my own to stop you.
That's the
Yep.
key.
Yep.
Um, so it'll be interesting to see how we do it. Like I said, we did Omega testing the other day. I literally had a turn where I Pelennor popped a monster, floated my equip that he popped to Dristan, drew a card. Dristan popped another monster, made King Custard, bounced two other set cards, and then just OTK'd my opponent. So, and that's literally only possible with the new support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the deck didn't need new support. It got new support. I think here's the hot take. I think it'll be the deck to beat moving forward.
Yeah.
Quote me on that one, boys.
Oh wow, that's all right. We'll see. It's
And
December
as far as
28th. December 28th. The deck to beat.
December 28th, yeah. What else do we have? Blue Eyes. I think the structure deck comes out mid-January, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what they said?
The 12th, I think was
The 12th. So the
somewhere in there.
only thing they won't have is the Twin Burst. So will Blue Eyes be relevant? It's hard to say.
Well,
It's
we did
really
some
hard to say.
testing, and it seems
Yeah.
like yes, but then maybe no at the same
Well,
time.
the
You
twin
know.
burst was really nice to help you kind of unbrick as well. So not having that is really unlucky, and then the alternate dragon as well, having the
Mm-hmm.
extra alternate dragon was really helpful to get unbricky as well. It's nice. It feels good with just the rank 8. I'm sure it'll be fine for a lot of people, but I don't think that alone will bring it into the metagame. I think the rest of the support will bring it into the metagame, but probably closer to the lower end of the metagame.
Well,
Way more relevant than what it is now, though, for
I think
sure.
I think a lot of people are gonna do their best to get it into the meta game because you're gonna see blue eyes everywhere.
You are going to see
This
blue
structure
eyes
deck comes
everywhere.
out, everybody's gonna. I'll probably buy it
Holy.
because it's got so much value to it. So why wouldn't you? So you're gonna
Mhm.
see a lot of blue eyes. So I think people are gonna start getting creative. It might be kind of like the new Invoked or whatever. You know, it's like everybody's gonna have it. Everybody's gonna like play it. They're gonna figure out how to make it work. There's gonna be 100 different
Mhm.
variants of it. You know.
Yeah, even when I was testing it the other day live on stream, people were saying, play with balance, play with this, play with that. So there's already people, theory crafting a bunch of builds. So I'm excited to see where the deck goes for sure. I played a more aggressive version
Mm-hmm.
without, Hollow Life Barrier. So I'm sure people will include those versions back in as well to
Yep.
try and stall until they can get their perfect board and just pop everything. Looking at the available cards, there's almost like, the deck is so advanced and so fast, and we're such in a weak meta game right now. It's going to be meta.
Right.
When the only thing that's really stopping you is a battle phase triple flipping coin flip type thing, and all your pops are in the main
Yep.
phase. It's like, yeah, this is definitely going to be meta, but how far into the meta? Just the main box, probably not super far. Probably won't be until mid-January, where it'll seriously start packing some heat, and even then it's not going to be like the deck to beat. It'll just be a very solid deck that you have to keep in mind for the metagame.
Well, if
So
you're playing ladder, you better be prepared, sir.
with no side deck, yeah, I think Blue Eyes would be one of the best decks in the game.
Yeah, you're gonna see a
Uh,
lot of blue eyes on the ladder.
yeah.
So,
So if for ladder, yeah, you guys are going to see that all over, especially with the cheap cost and very linear
I
play
mean, why
style.
wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know,
It'll
Buster
be
Blader will make a comeback.
it'll definitely be the new. Well, Desperado will be the king of the helmet decks. That's not going anywhere. Don't get
Right.
me wrong. Desperado will still be one of the best decks in the metagame. It just won't be the sole best deck anymore.
Right.
So that'll be the most helmet, and then followed up will probably be the Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's very linear. It's very easy to play. You're literally just clicking your glowing cards in hand. There's not very much thought process to go there. The most big brain that you'll probably get is when you banish your stones from the graveyard to add monsters back to your hand for fuel versus just summoning in the end phase, which again is not very
Right.
it's
Yeah.
not very in depth, unfortunately.
Sounds like my kind of deck. I like that.
Let's go. I mean, it's always good to have decks like that, right? That are a little
Right.
bit,
Yeah.
simpler to
Get you
play.
in the game easier. Yeah.
Because that'll actually give that'll give players who have that more aggressive play style, they're able to play their play style. Then players who play a more controlled play style will actually be able to play, a more interesting game rather than just try, two control players going at it and taking forever, 50 minutes, and then time is called. You know what I mean? Like that's
Right.
not fun
Yeah.
for anybody. So it's always fun to have decks like that in the metagame. Um, so that'll be interesting. So definitely keep Blue Eyes on a meta watch. Keep Noble Knights on the meta watch. Look at Desperado to go down a little bit. Look at Neos to drop significantly, in my opinion,
Hmm.
because hey, Fire Kings have been doing good. All right, I don't know what the representation was. They were in 10th place for power rankings,
Yeah, they were pretty
uh,
low. They were pretty low. They
but
barely made it into the Rogue Deck Roundup.
yeah, but the people who have been playing them make it look broken. You know what I mean? Like the difference between someone that knows what they're doing and someone that doesn't really know what they're doing, it makes it feel like, wow, that's a good deck. Why isn't more people playing that? And
Well,
then you go in and play it, and you're like, wait, I just bricked. What
yeah,
happened to me?
it's almost like brick eyes, brick kings, or whatever you want to call them,
Yeah,
fire
little brick,
bricks.
fire bricks, brick coals. They're just coals. There's no
Yeah,
fire.
because when you get the stuff to pop off with, it's like, oh my god, this
Yeah,
is an amazing deck. But then it's like, oh, look
yeah.
at this, I have 4 spells in hand.
I think what's interesting is even with the low win rate, enough of them are here to kind of because they're pretty much the only ones stopping Invoked Neos right now. You know, like Invoked Neos doesn't really care about Desperado, doesn't really care about Noble Knights. Their traps kind of just deal with those, and then they just OTK with Purgatrio every single time. Um, but Fire Kings, I have seen so many times because Fire King right now is actually just window. It's just window stall. That's all it really is. The traps are not enough to stall players. There's all the decks kind of power through it. The window stall, on the other hand, though, bringing out that pedal fin, forcing you to pretty much have to have a karma cut to win the game, is really what's keeping Neos intact. And if anything happens to that window, they usually just run out of resources and they fizzle out very, very rapidly. So that's why every time you see Fire King versus Neos, it almost always goes to the Fire King's,
Mhm.
you know, chance of winning. So if Invoked actually ever became super, super, super meta, like they were the deck to beat, you just see Fire Kings running all over the place to kind of counter that. But gladly, that's not the meta we're in. It's not Fire King Neos every game. It's, you know, Desperado versus Noble Knight every game, which is also kind of boring to watch because it's literally whoever goes first usually wins. But it is what it is.
That's just kind of the meta we're in, though, isn't it?
Yeah, go first or well, last week it's been a lot of OTK decks, but I don't usually when OTK decks go that wild, it does not last very long, right? Like people will start being like, okay, I'm gonna play more traps, I'm gonna play more spheres, I'm gonna play temperance again. Hopefully, please, Desperado players, play the temperance. That's all you need. Um, but we'll see, man. I don't know. Blackwings kind of actually Blackwings had a surprising power ranking, didn't they? Weren't they kind of high up there? Fourth place, not bad.
Yep, not bad at
That's
all.
not bad at all. They're
No
best
tournament
performing.
victories, but lots of
Yeah,
top eights.
lots of top eights, lots of top fours yesterday as well. And then actually one in top two that got clapped by Heroes. But I mean, come on, Heroes versus Blackwings, literally whoever goes second just wins that, just wins, which is what happened 3 times in a row.
Yep.
So
Blackwings was a decent investment if you bought into that. I mean, it was an expensive one, but it's been around for quite
yeah,
some time now. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually it just kind of falls off. It comes into the meta, it leaves. It comes into the meta, it leaves. So
you say that now, then they drop the negate Blackwing on us.
oh no, no.
Woo! Selection box, baby.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
that's the other thing we
welcome.
didn't talk about. Selection box
Yep, that's
coming
coming up
soon,
soon.
and that will definitely shake up the meta. So
I
don't know
can't wait to
what's
see what the
thinking about.
exclusive card in that will be. The one that everybody starts complaining about that I will have 3 of.
I mean, yeah.
You
Hopefully,
got
it's
it.
just not. Hopefully, I'll be okay if it's another 11-year and not a Fiendish Chain, if that makes sense. I don't want a generic staple in there. I'd prefer if it's something that's specific to a specific deck, and that way, if you're not playing that deck, you don't have to go into it.
It's gonna be the best Noble Knight card ever. They're making
It's
it
going to be the best
exclusively
moment
for
ever.
Duel Links. You know what I mean? It's gonna be
And I'll have 3
exclusive.
copies, baby. Let's go.
One
Now
box
we'll
is gonna
see.
cost you $300, and it's at the bottom of every box,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
We'll see. It's weird with selection boxes, right? Because on one hand, you get a selection because every selection box has theoretically actually had amazing support. It's
Right.
just it wasn't until the last selection boxes where that amazing support was also relevant with the metagame. Because when you think about it, Necro Valley was also a selection exclusive for an extremely long time,
Yeah.
a whole year, in fact. But the moment it became relevant, which I remember was the Dark Lord versus Desperado metagame, which is hilarious that this is where we still are. The only difference is no Dark Lord, right?
Right.
The only thing keeping Dark Lords at bay was Desperado with Necro Valley and World Legacy Clash, and that's it. But
Yep.
people didn't have Necro Valley, so people started to get angry, and then 2 weeks later, Necro Valley came out, so people were like, "Oh, okay, I'm cool now."
Yeah. Now it's all right.
So whatever the selection box is coming out, it's definitely going to be relevant. So that's why I'm gonna say right now, if you're not playing in damage step, don't invest into the main box. Only invest if you plan on playing on damage step. If you're just playing the battle phases, it's really not worth it. Only invest your gems if you're gonna do it. Only invest gems and save your money for selection box because
There's
whatever's
gonna be
coming up in
something.
Select Box, it's gonna be good. It's always good.
There's always something. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always worth getting. Always.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, is there anything else you want to get to?
Uh, I think that's pretty much it for where we are in the metagame. I think, just to recap, I think OTK decks have had a good week, but I think that it's going to slide back down as people adjust their deck lists. I think when the new box comes up, Noble Knights will go up, Desperado will go down slightly, Invoked Neos will go down significantly. I think that's pretty much it. I think that's
Yep.
that's big ones.
Yeah. It's been a good meta lately. Kind of like I said, it's the leftover meta, but I can't wait for all the new stuff that's coming out in the new box. And then we got the selection box, we got the structure deck. So this is a good time to be alive. Good time to be alive in Duel Links.
Yep. And the other thing that's interesting too about selection boxes, it kind of gives you a preview of what the whole year is going to be, right? Like when we
Right.
saw 11 year, we were like, okay, we know what's coming.
Yeah.
Light and dark, crazy light and dark support, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
we'll get a
So
pretty good preview of what's the
we're
year's got.
we're gonna go from people complaining about it being a stale meta to a pay to win meta.
Happens every year.
Yep. So get ready for that, folks. Save your gems. Get a second job. Donate plasma. Do what you can. Don't volunteer because you don't get paid for that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, be selfish. Get paid. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Make sure you get in the Discord because that's where we host all these wonderful tournaments, especially Damage Step, which is this Saturday, right?
This Saturday, the new box will be legal for it, so immediately you guys are going to know what is going to be good, because when these big prize pool tournaments happen, people would just sit all night practicing, even if it comes out the day before, and then bam, get in there right away. So if you're unsure about the new cards, you're not sure if anything's good, that'll prove it literally day one.
Yep, there you go. So check out Damage Step, check out our new player help. We got a new player help guide, how to start your account, and they did a new player dictionary. So if you don't know all these terms like top deck and econ and scoop and all that kind of stuff, you can check out the new player dictionary. They did a lot of hard work on that. It looks pretty good, so check that out. We're gonna get out of here. I'm Circus. That's right.
Peace out.
All right, we'll see you next time.
I am a little biased,